talk to the editor of The Nation magazine, and this is Bheki Makhubu. Bheki, good morning to you and welcome to the program. These convicts come from Vietnam, Jamaica, Laos, Cuba and Yemen, deemed too dangerous to stay in the U.S., and they've now been transferred via this third country deportation scheme. Do you know much about this scheme? And it seems as if not everybody was in the know about this transfer itself.
Well, thanks for having me. I've been following the news as a journalist, and particularly American politics. So I'm aware of a third country scheme that they have. But up until yesterday morning, I wasn't aware we were, really involved in it. Earlier in the year, it had been said that we might be considered, but nothing had come of it up until yesterday morning when we heard that a plane had landed. And what's shocking is I spoke to several cabinet ministers and MPs to find out what was going on. And they didn't know too about this. It seems to have been handled very secretly at the Prime Minister's office.
And you describe this, Bheki, as the Prime Minister, and this is Russell Dlamini, being out on a frolic of his own, ostensibly. So just talk to us about whether there has been political or, intra-governmental fallout from this agreement.
Well, it's too early to say, particularly because remember that whatever fallout there might be, whatever Russell might have done on his own or with, I think he did it with a select group of cabinet ministers. I don't think the full complement of the cabinet was aware, and definitely not the members of parliament. But in this country, eventually what matters is what the king says. And perhaps what he would have known about this. So you're not going to get much of an upheaval unless we get to know, what the king's position is on this arrangement.
Let's just go back to the concept or the practice of a third country deportation scheme. To your understanding, Bheki, now that you've kind of done a bit more of a deep dive, seeing that it affects your country directly, was there a quid pro quo potentially offered? I mean, have you been able to glean what the exchange was? I mean, no one, just takes violent criminals in at your own expense, because they would be kept, I understand, in isolated cells in a local prison there. But did you know what your country got in return for this, or what this deal sets out as a quid pro quo?
Well, let's look at let's look at a few scenarios. First of all, when Trump came into office, you remember he started dishing around tariffs for anyone he didn't like. He hit you guys in South Africa and Lesotho, but didn't do anything with us. So that was the first thing one could have looked at to say, what's going on here? But during that mess, when everybody was panicking, Prime Minister Russell issued a public statement where he was boasting that he had received a call from Makhubu and that they had discussed matters of mutual interest between the countries. So I suppose that is when the matter was put on the table between our government and the U.S. government. I guess he did it to sort of give us comfort that we're on the right side of the United States, but I see it as they were selling our country to the highest bidder, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, let's pick up on that theme then, Bheki. The U.S. government describing these particular individuals as uniquely barbaric criminals. What has been the reaction of your countrymen and women?
Well, those statements, actually, that quote hit me in the face. I mean, it's chilling. People are scared. In fact, I don't think government would have told us about this arrival had it not been that we all started going on social media to ask questions, because government responded to public concerns in the late afternoon yesterday and saying they are trying to quell our fears. People are scared. These are people we don't know, whose backgrounds we have no clue where they come from. And when a country like the US says we are too scared to keep them, who are we to feel any more safe? Even though government has tried to say, these people are kept in maximum prison in Matapa. I don't think that it has made us feel any better, because the question is, why are they here in the first place? But let me say this to you, Imam. The way our country is and the way we behave, had the US and our government, say, brought in ordinary people who are victims of what America is doing to get rid of foreigners, I don't think we would have given it much thought. It's the criminality of these people and how scary they are. I mean, only recently an 8-year-old child disappeared while going to shops. And it fueled so much fear in the country that the government had to say, please don't behave like there's a mass murderer picking up children, because people are panicking. So when we have 5 people we didn't know anything about brought here, even if they're in jail, we're not comfortable with them, particularly because we don't know what's going on, because keep information has been kept away from us. And the government is not exploring. When you ask any politician what's going on, everybody says we don't know. And the one person who has the answers doesn't seem interested to explain, to take the public into his confidence. So we're very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I mean, that's concerning. As you say, it took such a long time for a response to come. And this was after the fact this had already been a done deal. And it's not likely that you will get the answers that you are really seeking. But let's talk about the long term. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was saying, it's clear that our government, and this has been a problem going back in time, they don't think they owe us any explanation about anything until we make noise. So had this matter not come out from public outcry, government would never have discussed it with anybody to say, oh, we've got some 5 dangerous criminals, we're keeping them there, and you guys relax, we're good. They were never going to do that.
Let's talk about the long-term risk. I mean, we're all in the region, we're neighbors. What kind of precedent, Bheki, do you think this sets, not only for your nation, but possibly other African states? Are we looking at a situation or a future where weaker nations could be seen as, and I hate the term because we're talking about human beings, but used as dumping grounds for deportees that more powerful states just don't want?
Well, it seems so. I mean, if you look at the government statement yesterday, they say that these were long negotiations. I don't think you can have long negotiations, very involved negotiations, just to deport 5 guys who happen to need a jail to stay in. I think America is going to dump a lot of their unwanted people here. Then what happens to them? I mean, our jails are already full, you know. 3 weeks ago, the king was issuing an instruction in public to say the Commissioner General of Correctional Services and the prerogative of Mercy Committee must come together and try and release prisoners who have less sentences to finish, so that it will reduce the pressure on jails. By the look of things, without any information and looking at how the US is behaving, our jails will be clogged up by these people who they are going to bring here, dangerous criminals. Like I say, if it's just people, because if you deport, and this is where I think the original question comes in. If the US is going to deport people who have not committed any crimes in the US and haven't done anything, obviously they can't be put in jail because they have done nothing wrong except to be in the US, which is not a crime here. So what happens then? Well, then you have to go back and look at what happened in the 90s. What happened in the 90s, particularly between 1990 and 1994, when it was clear that South Africa was democratizing, a lot of Nigerians, for instance, came into Eswatini and they lived here. And after 94, they suddenly disappeared. Where did they go? They moved into South Africa. Why? Because you can't do anything with our country. We're too small for somebody who wants to make a life in, say, the US or Nigeria. South Africa is the option. So if this continues the way I see it, they are coming to you, actually, not us,
Oh, my
simply
goodness.
because of your economy. Yeah.
Look, our jails are overcrowded. I mean, you know, several 100% in certain jails. So I'm not sure, and I also don't think I don't know how well that would go down. And we expect in our country there would be a lot more transparency or accountability, especially in Parliament. We have a robust opposition here, unlike in your country. But let's talk about, you know, the bigger picture. And I know you've touched on it slightly, Bheki. You have covered press freedom and governance issues in Eswatini for years. And, you know, what does this incident reveal about the state of democracy, but more importantly, transparency and national sovereignty under the King's rule?
Look, like I said, you know, they were never going to discuss this with us. They were never, I mean, the fact that it was hush-hush throughout the negotiations, no hint. One cabinet minister said he actually was told by some people at an international conference that, you know what's happening with your country? And he said to me, you know, I thought that guy was lying because it was just too incredible a thing to happen. And besides, he didn't know about it. And he said, yesterday I had to call this guy to say, so you were right. Like I say, I mean, if you look at today's newspapers here in the country, the slant is not to ask hard questions about what's going on, but rather to defend and try and explain government's position as if, you know, in a typical way that us as journalists, our job is to convey government's views without asking hard questions. Also, Imam, remember, and this is a question that I don't know where it's going to be asked, but it needs to be asked, is Trump has said that anybody who takes deportees from America will get paid for it. So now that is the question, who's getting paid for this? You know, is it the government? Which means that somebody needs, I was talking to an MP yesterday, I said, well, you'll just have to ask the Minister of Finance, where's the money? You know, if anything, he comes back for his supplementary budget down, you know, later on. But somebody is going to get money. And how much is it? They're not talking, nobody's talking about that. And I think I read somewhere that when the question was asked on further details, some things are confidential. It should be confidential. This is us. You know, this is about the people of Eswatini. I think we deserve a right to know, but here you have it.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us, Bheki.
So
Yeah, thanks for thanks for sharing that with us. And I'm sure a lot of South Africans who were listening to you now sort of sat back in their chairs saying, when you said, you know, those prisoners are headed our way. But as I say, hopefully there's a lot more accountability and transparency. And as you say as well, hopefully more answers and clarity about how much was paid, where that money went, and is it going to be used for their upkeep? You know, you've got to take care of those prisoners behind bars.